In this video, we're going to create a more complex SQL SELECT clause. Then we will use highlight color to narrow down the list of fields in our SQL clause. Most, if not all, professional SQL databases will employ some kind of data dictionary or codebook. These define each field in a table and its purpose. From these dictionaries or codebooks, you should be able to get a list of fields as I have here in this mock data set, which has two tables, customer info and sales agent, with their corresponding fields listed below. In the third column, I have listed the two aliases that I will be using for each table, CI for customer information and SA for sales agent. As mentioned in previous videos, you could also use the full table name instead of the alias if that is your preference. For that, you would simply use the values in the header for those variables. Here I have a full SQL statement complete with an inner join to show you what the finished product might be. We're going to create the select clause of this statement. In the VBA, we will create a new macro and call it SQL SELECT Join 1. We are going to need two variables for the last row of each table list. And we will need a last column variable. We will need the SQL list variable and the two alias values as strings, and the select val for our loops. We will copy over the last row functions and add a number for each of the table columns. For this macro, we will hard code the columns A for the first list and B for the second. We will bring over the last column function. For the alias values 1 and 2, we will also hard code those to the cells C2 and C3 respectively. In later videos, I will show you ways to get away from all this hard coding. But for now, we want to keep this macro simple and focus on creating the select clause. Next, we will initialize the SQL list to an empty string. We're going to create two separate loops that will go through each list and add the appropriate alias as it brings in the field names. As we have done in the previous videos, we will concatenate the alias, a dot, the field name, a comma, and a space. Once the first for loop goes through the first column, we will have the second for loop go through the second column and continue to add these fields to our SQL list string variable. We will trim the comma and the space at the end of the select clause string. Then we will add the word select to the beginning of the string. And finally, we will put our new string in the first empty cell of the first row. Now we can reset, save, and run. And we will compare it to the statement in the Notepad++. This looks good. It's a little off-center because we didn't have the line breaks in our new string, but everything is there. So now we want to consider what we would do if we don't want all of these fields from the table. What if we only wanted a select few as we see in the sample SQL statement? We could go in and delete the fields we don't want. However, if we want to use this file in the future, we would have to bring those fields back in. It would be much easier if we could simply highlight the fields we needed for this time. So let's do that now. I could highlight all of these in green and then get the red, green, blue value for this color and use that to select the cells I want for the concatenated list. There are several problems with this approach. If you don't use this macro for some time, will you be able to remember which color you used? What if you give this macro to someone else? Will they use the color that you've selected? Some colors look very similar, like these two blues, but they have different red, green, blue values. I'm going to leave these highlighted cells with all kinds of colors to show that the simple approach we will take will work on any color set we choose to use at any given time. In the VBA, we will copy the SQL Select Join 1 and make it SQL Select Join 2. We will need to add a variable to get the interior color of a given cell. We are going to set the values so that we get the interior color from cell A1. We could set the RGB value to 255, 255, 255, which is white, or the color to, quote, white, or set the interior color to none. However, each instance of Excel may have a different setting for the interior color. They will all appear as white to us. I've experienced this moving a macro from one machine to another and having the macro fail because of a setting difference for the interior color. The easy workaround is to have Excel tell us what the default value is and store it in a variable. This will ensure that this macro will be able to be used on multiple machines despite the different default settings for the interior color of a cell. Now that we have set the interior color to whatever the default setting is for a cell without highlight colors, we will then go into each loop and add an if statement. If the cell's interior color does not match the interior color of A1, it will be brought into the loop and concatenated to the string. This also makes it possible to bring in anything that has a highlight color, no matter what that specific color is. And we will do the same for the second column. So now that we're ready, we'll hit Reset, Save, Run. And we will copy this over to the Notepad++. It all looks good. So the way this is set up, we can use any highlight color, but it can be broken if cell A1 is highlighted. If we set the header to a yellow color, it will still run and pick up the greens and the blues. However, if we have the same green color in A1, it will be broken. If this is the case, you can consider using a different cell, possibly the cell after the last column of data. In the next video, we're going to combine everything we've learned so far in this series to make a full SQL statement.